World within the frame. The camera arrived on a Tuesday. Max Holloway had no particular love for Tuesdays. They felt like Mondays wearing a disguise, still exhausted from the week's beginning, but without the excuse of being the actual worst day. He'd spent the morning editing wedding photos, the kind of work that paid bills, but slowly drained something vital from his creative core. The antique shop on Marchmont Street wasn't somewhere he usually browsed. Max preferred digital efficiency, the crisp clarity of modern lenses. But that afternoon, rain had ambushed him between the subway and his studio, and the shop's awning offered sanctuary. Inside, dust motes performed their eternal ballet through slanted light. The shopkeeper, an elderly woman whose age seemed deliberately ambiguous, barely glanced up from her crossword puzzle. "Just looking," Max muttered, shaking water from his jacket. The camera sat on a middle shelf, wedged between a Victorian music box and a collection of tarnished spoons. It was a medium-format film camera, brutally heavy, its leather grip worn smooth by decades of hands. The manufacturer's name had been scratched away, replaced by a symbol Max didn't recognize: 3 interlocking circles with a vertical line through their center. He lifted it. The weight felt right, substantial in a world of plastic and aluminum. No price tag. "How much?" he called out. The shopkeeper finally looked up, her eyes narrowing as if seeing him for the first time. "That one's free." "Nothing's free." "That one is." She returned to her crossword. "Take it or leave it. I'd prefer you take it." Max's instincts whispered warnings, but his hands had already claimed the camera. 3 rolls of ancient film came with it, their metal canisters cold against his palm. The first photograph was an accident. Max had been testing the camera in his studio, not expecting the ancient film to be viable. He'd pointed it at his workbench, just a test shot, checking if the mechanism still functioned. The shutter clicked with surprising smoothness, like a door closing in an empty house. Developing the film felt archaeological. Max hadn't worked with chemicals in years, but muscle memory guided his hands in the darkroom's crimson glow. The image emerged gradually, bleeding into visibility. His workbench appeared exactly as he'd photographed it: coffee mug, laptop, scattered lens caps, but behind these familiar objects, something else had manifested. Figures. Translucent, barely visible, like smoke given momentary form. Humanoid, but wrong. Their proportions stretched in directions that shouldn't exist, limbs that bent at too many joints, faces that seemed to shift when viewed peripherally. And they were watching him. Max's hand trembled, making the photograph ripple in its chemical bath. He'd shot hundreds of thousands of images in his career. Light leaks, double exposures, film defects. He knew them all. This was none of those. He looked closer, squinting in the red darkness. Along the bottom edge of the photograph, barely visible, someone had written something. The letters were impossibly small, requiring a magnifying glass to decipher. They weren't in any alphabet Max recognized. Sleep didn't come easily that night. Max lay in his apartment listening to the city's nocturnal symphony, sirens, voices, the percussion of footsteps on pavement. His mind kept returning to those figures, their translucent forms hovering behind his captured reality. At 3 a.m., surrender arrived. He pulled out his laptop and photographed the strange writing with his phone, then ran it through every translation app and image recognition software he could find. Nothing. He posted it to obscure linguistics forums, academic subreddits, anywhere people might recognize ancient or constructed languages. Then he waited, watching the blue glow of his screen until exhaustion finally claimed him. By morning, 17 people had responded. 16 said they had no idea. The 17th was different. "That's not a human language. Where did you find this? I've seen something similar once in classified documents from the Arecibo Observatory. They never published the translation, but I remember fragments. This says, "We see you seeing us." The username was SETI Archivist 1979. No profile picture, no post history before this single message. Max typed frantically, "What does that mean? Where can I find more information?" The response came instantly, as if they'd been waiting. "Stop taking pictures. Destroy the camera. Some doors should stay closed." Then the account deleted itself.
Max took more pictures. He couldn't help himself. The mystery had hooks in him now, dragging him deeper. Over the next 3 days, he photographed everything. His apartment, the streets, random strangers, the sky. Each image, when developed, revealed those same translucent figures, but they were becoming clearer. In the second photograph, they had faces. Still alien, still wrong, but recognizable as faces. In the fifth, he could see their environment, a space that existed behind his reality like a second exposure, two worlds occupying the same moment. The writing appeared in every image now, longer messages each time. Max had found a graduate student at Columbia who specialized in xenolinguistics, theoretical language structures for non-human communication. She worked in secret, afraid of what it meant, but fascinated beyond reason. Her translations arrived via encrypted email. Photograph 2. We have been here for 17,000 years. Photograph 5. Your device creates windows. We can see through, but cannot pass. Photograph 9. Once we lived where you lived. Then the separation occurred. Photograph 12. Help us. The prison is collapsing. When it falls completely, we fall with it into the void between dimensions. The graduate student's final email contained only one sentence. I can't do this anymore. Whatever you're dealing with, I want no part of it. Don't contact me again. Max stood in his dark room, surrounded by dozens of photographs pinned to every available surface. The figures had evolved from smoke to substance. He could see their city now, their architecture that seemed to grow organically like crystals, their technology that blurred the line between machine and living tissue. They were beautiful in a way that made his chest ache. And they were dying. The latest images showed their world fracturing, pieces of reality peeling away like old paint. The figures reached toward the camera, their expressions transcending species, pure, desperate hope. Max's phone rang. Unknown number. Hello? Static. Then a voice that sounded like it was traveling through water. Max Holloway. We finally breach your communication protocol. He nearly dropped the phone. Who is this? We are what you call the figures. Your camera creates temporary bridge. We speak through electromagnetic field. Only for short time. Max's knees felt weak. He sat heavily on his darkroom stool. You're real. As real as you. Different dimensional frequency. Your species discovered this technology once, long ago. Cameras that photograph adjacent realities. Your military, your governments, they sealed the knowledge. Too dangerous, they said. This camera is last survivor. Why are you trapped? The voice crackled, fading in and out. Experiment. Our civilization grew arrogant. We thought we could compress entire populations into pocket dimensions, save space, save resources. But the technology failed. We are stuck between layers of reality, slowly eroding. When we disappear completely, we don't die. We become nothing, unexist. How many of you are there? Billions. Max looked at the photographs surrounding him. Billions of souls pressed into the spaces between moments, watching his world with hungry, hopeless eyes. What do you need me to do? The camera is key and lock. It holds our prison stable, but also prevents escape. Destroy it. The dimensional boundaries collapse. We are freed. It sounded simple. Too simple. What happens when you're freed? Where do you go? Silence stretched across the static. Then, here. We come here, to your dimension. We have nowhere else.
Max researched for 2 days straight, sleeping in fragments, consuming information like oxygen. He found classified documents leaked by whistleblowers, scientific papers that had been scrubbed from official databases but survived in dark corners of the internet. The camera technology had been developed in 1952 by a joint Soviet-American black project. The goal? Observe alternate dimensions for resources, intelligence, strategic advantages. They'd succeeded beyond their wildest nightmares. The cameras had revealed inhabited dimensions, entire civilizations living in spaces adjacent to our own. And someone had the idea to use these dimensions as prisons, dump nuclear waste, sequester political dissidents, hide things that needed to be hidden. The dimensional inmates had fought back. Wars had erupted across reality itself. Thousands had died on both sides before the governments finally sealed the technology, destroyed the cameras, pretended it had never happened. Except one camera survived. Max found a grainy photograph from 1953. Military personnel standing around a table covered in cameras. In the bottom right corner, partially hidden by shadow, was his camera. And standing beside it, much younger, but unmistakably the same person, was the antique shop owner. She'd been waiting 70 years to pass it on. The phone calls from the imprisoned beings became more frequent, more desperate. They could hold the connection longer now, as if proximity was increasing. Max, please, time is dissolving here. We can feel ourselves beginning to unmake. Our children are forgetting their names. Our history is evaporating. We will become less than ghosts. He wanted to help them. Every humanitarian impulse screamed at him to smash the camera, free them from their torment. But 7 billion humans lived in his dimension, unaware of the billions pressing against reality's membrane, desperate for escape. Max returned to the antique shop. The old woman sat in the same chair, same crossword puzzle, as if no time had passed. She looked up as the bell announced his entrance. "You came back. You knew what this was?" "Of course." She set down her pen. "I was 23 when I worked on the project. Brilliant young physicist, they said. Genius, they said. Until I realized what we'd done." "You put them there?" "Not personally, but I contributed. I helped build the prison." Her voice carried decades of weight. "I've tried to destroy that camera 100 times. Can't do it. Some kind of quantum entanglement with my own life force," they said. "If it breaks, I break." "So you waited until you could pass it to someone else? To someone who might make a different choice than I did?" She looked at him with eyes that had seen too much. "What will you choose, Max Holloway?" He placed the camera on the counter between them. "Tell me what happens if I destroy it." "They come here. Billions of refugees flooding into our dimension. Your governments will panic. There will be violence, fear, probably war. Many will die." "And if I don't?"
They continue eroding until they unmake completely. Genocide by neglect. We'll have maintained our comfortable ignorance. Those aren't choices. Those are different flavors of nightmare. Welcome to moral complexity. She smiled, sad and knowing. There's a third option.
The third option required 14 days of work, no sleep, and technology that didn't officially exist. Max contacted everyone who'd responded to his linguistic forum posts, everyone who seemed to know something about dimensional physics, everyone who'd ever published about alternate realities before their papers were mysteriously retracted. He found physicists working at university labs who didn't ask questions, engineers with security clearances they were willing to violate, and one ex-NSA cryptographer who'd been waiting 30 years for someone to ask the right questions. They built a device, part camera, part dimensional anchor, part reality bridge. The theory was simple, even if the execution was anything but. Instead of destroying the prison or maintaining it, create a permeable membrane. Allow gradual transfer, small groups at a time, managed migration rather than catastrophic flood. It won't be perfect, the cryptographer warned. There'll be complications, cultural friction, resources will be strained, some people will react with violence. But it gives us a chance, Max said. Both species, both dimensions. You're gambling with reality itself. I'm gambling that compassion is more powerful than fear. The first transfer occurred on a Sunday morning. Max stood in an empty warehouse in Queens, surrounded by equipment that hummed with barely contained power. The camera sat at the center of a complicated array of mirrors and lenses, all focused on a single point in space where dimensions pressed closest together. The old physicist stood beside him, watching readouts on a laptop screen. "Are you ready?" Max activated the device. The air split. Not violently, more like silk parting for a needle. Through the opening, he saw their world clearly for the first time, crystal cities reaching toward strange stars, technology that seemed grown rather than built, and figures moving with grace that defied Earth's physics. 5 of them stepped through. They materialized slowly, translucent at first, gaining solidity as they fully entered Earth's dimension. Up close, they were even more alien, skin that shifted colors like oil on water, limbs that bent in impossible ways, eyes that saw spectrums humans couldn't imagine. But their faces held expressions Max recognized: relief, wonder, terror, hope. One of them approached, moving with careful deliberation. When it spoke, the voice resonated directly in Max's mind, bypassing language entirely. "Thank you, thank you. We thought we'd die forgotten." Max felt tears on his cheeks. Welcome home. The integration was chaos, as predicted. Government scrambled to respond. Media exploded with conspiracy theories and religious interpretations. Fear manifested in protests, violence, demands for the newcomers to be sent back or eliminated. But something else happened too. People, ordinary people, reached out, offered homes, food, friendship. Scientists collaborated across dimensional boundaries. Artists created works blending human and alien aesthetics. Children played together, unencumbered by their parents' fears. Max photographed it all, using conventional cameras now. The antique camera sat in a museum behind glass, a reminder of how close humanity had come to choosing comfort over compassion. The old physicist died peacefully 6 months after the first transfer. At her funeral, hundreds of the dimensional refugees attended, their presence a living testament to her final act of redemption. Max continued the transfers, slowly, carefully. It would take decades to bring everyone through. There were complications, cultural misunderstandings, resource conflicts, individuals on both sides who chose violence over understanding. But it was working. Standing in his studio one evening, Max looked at his latest photograph. A human child and an alien child, sitting together drawing pictures of each other's worlds. Imperfect translation between species, but genuine communication nevertheless. His phone rang. Another group was ready to transfer. Max grabbed his coat and headed out into the twilight, toward the warehouse where dimensions touched, where the imprisoned became neighbors, where reality itself learned to be more flexible than anyone had imagined. The camera had shown him one truth. Every photograph captures a choice. What we focus on, what we exclude, what we decide deserves to be remembered. He'd chosen compassion. The universe, in its strange and unpredictable way, seemed to approve.